Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And I'm here today with Dean Sluyter, and I'll tell you what, we're going to have fun today, and we're also going to teach you guys a bunch of cool enlightenment lessons from the movies, okay? So his book is Cinema Nirvana. And the cool thing that about this is Dean Sluyter has a long reputation of spirituality, of teaching people meditation. I mean, he is been around for a long time, written many books, and I'm just really excited he's here today because we could really use some uplifting, and he's going to give us some techniques, I'm hoping, that will help us along our journey as we deal with everything that's going on in the world right now. Hey, let me just thank everybody who has emailed me and who has sent me messages. I really appreciate all the new subscribers to my show and to the YouTube channel. Thank you so much. If you want a psychic reading, go to my website, nancyyearout.com, and you can book there. So here we are. I've got Dean Sluyter here, and he's an award-winning author. And he's taught natural approaches to meditation and awakening since 1970. His highly acclaimed book series include the Amazon #1 stress management bestseller, Fear Less, and Natural Meditation. Now, Dean gives talks, workshops, and retreats throughout the United States and beyond, from Ivy League colleges to maximum security prisons. His media appearances have included National Public Radio, the New York Times, Coast to Coast AM, the Dr. Oz Show, and the Oprah magazine. He's a grateful student of Eastern and Western sages in several traditions. Dean has completed numerous pilgrimages and retreats in India, Tibet, Nepal, and the West. He is known for conveying authentic teachings in forms that are relaxed, accessible, and down to earth. Hey, Dean, welcome back to High Road.
Hey, thanks so much. It's so good to be here, Nancy.
Good to see you. Hey, this was interesting. Why'd you write this? Were you just a movie buff or what?
Well, I was two things. I was a movie buff and an enlightenment buff. And
okay.
And the particular nature of my madness is that my wife and I would be coming out of a movie and I would be saying, "Oh, honey, did you catch that connection? You know, when this guy said this and this woman did this and that, that's just like this thing in the Dharma teachings with bup, 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 and bup, bup, bup."
Oh,
And so I kept bending her ear with this stuff. And finally she said, "Dean, why don't you go over there and write this stuff down?"
And you did.
And I did. And yeah, it became a book.
It became a book. Well, I just think it's awesome. And, you know, you were telling me before we even get started on the book that you're doing a podcast and you're doing a YouTube show where you're interviewing people from the movies. And so tell the audience a little bit about that.
Right. So this is a new enterprise. The website and the YouTube series and podcast is called The Filmosophers.
Okay.
And it's co-hosted by myself and my lifelong buddy going back to childhood, Chris Bush. Chris is a former Hollywood child actor and a longtime meditation teacher as well.
Neat.
And we actually, in about 1962, I think. I was 13, he was about 11. Right. We appeared together in a series of radio commercial spots for the film, and I'm not making this up, the film Pinocchio in Outer Space.
Seriously?
Okay.
How did you get that gig?
Actually, a family friend was the casting director, and we got to work with a guy named Art Gilmore, who, if you're of a certain age and you grew up in LA, Art Gilmore was the great golden voice baritone announcer.
Okay.
And he announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, here's Tom Astro and Dick Cosmo, the first two teenagers to be shot into outer space."
Oh my God.
And that was me and Chris.
Cool.
And Chris's great line was, "Look, Tom, it's a space flying whale." And my great line was, "I hope I meet a girl in outer space," which of course became the theme of my life for the next, many
Oh,
years.
you were teased. Yes, I'm sure relentlessly. I'm sure by your family,
Yeah,
right? Maybe yeah, that's
yeah,
great. Dinner,
yeah,
dinner table conversation.
yeah. So
Oh,
yes. So we interview. Um, we've just been up for about a month or so. We
wow.
drop a new episode every week. We've dropped episodes where we interview David Lynch, who not only talks about doing Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet and his meditation practice, he talks about his quest for the perfect milkshake.
Okay. So
We
it's fun,
interviewed Michael Imperioli, who most people know from The Sopranos, but he
right?
is also a director and writer and actually a very serious practitioner of Tibetan Buddhist practice.
Right.
We just dropped the episode with Bill Duke, great character actor, and yeah, it goes on.
That's awesome.
So that's the Filmosophers, and people can find that wherever they find their podcasts or
Well, that's
YouTube.
fantastic. That's awesome. Hey, I want to talk about this book. I really thought this was interesting how you took the movies and
Yep.
then brought out, like you were talking in the very beginning of our conversation, the spiritual aspect. And I want to start with Snow White,
Hmm.
1937. And I want to read something here that you
Hmm.
wrote. Well, it's from Walt Disney. And it says, I thought this was really cool. He says, so in planning a new picture, we don't think of grown-ups and we don't think of children, but just to the fine, clean, unspoiled spot down deep in every one of us that the world has maybe made us forget, and maybe our pictures can help recall. Walt Disney,
Yeah, there it is.
right?
There it is. There's the thing everyone is looking for, either consciously or unconsciously. That place that is unspoiled was the
Mhm.
same the moment you were born, was the same when you were blowing out the candles for your, fifth birthday, is the same right now. There's that something that is within us that's pristine, which we
Mhm.
can call awareness, beingness, spirit, whatever inadequate word you want to use, because all the words are inadequate. Not because they say too little, but because they say too much.
What do you think Walt Disney was trying to portray with Snow White? Because there
Well,
was a
he
message.
he was trying to convey that. Now think about how the film opens. If you can remember how this opens, the very first thing we see is actually not Snow White. It's
Right.
a kind of spooky shot at night of the castle. It's dark. There's one little light burning in one little rectangular window. And we do a slow zoom in. By the way, that film, that was the first, people forget this, that was the first feature length cartoon ever
Yeah,
made.
Snow White.
And
Yeah, I
and
read
Pete
that.
and Disney's brother Roy, who was his business partner at the banks, everyone thought no one will ever go to see a feature length cartoon.
Mhm.
He'd gotten rich and famous with little Mickey Mouse shorts, so this was a big leap. And he had all these artistic and technical innovations. So they're doing this zoom in right at the beginning. No one had ever done anything like that in animation. And then we dissolve to insights, and there is, right, the queen, the evil stepmother,
Mhm.
who is um, uh, uh, all by herself. By the way, it's like, where's everyone else? Where's the king?
Why
Where's
is
the
she alone?
right? Where's the ladies in waiting? For some reason, she's completely by herself in this castle. So it doesn't make sense logically, but it totally makes sense spiritually,
Okay.
because the queen represents the ego, right?
Okay.
That's why she's mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. The ego, when we get fixated, when we allow ourselves to get identified with the small self,
Yeah.
the small self always feels incomplete because it's small.
Right.
Right, because it's this little thing. Okay, I'm Dean, I'm 5 foot this many and this many pounds and this personal history and this, these qualities and not those qualities. It's like you've been defined as this little wave, And what you're always craving for, what all of us are craving, is to re-identify with our true identity, which is the ocean. So here's the isolated thing. Here's the queen, who's the fairest of them all. We're trying to aggrandize ourselves, trying to pump ourselves up. It's so much work.
Mhm.
We can never be good enough. We can never be good looking enough.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's not on the outside.
And isn't it interesting that the queen is like, here's a good, like, here's your essay question. Is the queen beautiful? Is she fair? And the things, she's like a bad parody of beauty. She's so pulled back. She looks like she's had, about 5 facelifts too many.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She's working it way too hard.
Yeah.
Then we cut to sweet Snow White scrubbing dressed in her rags, the neglected stepchild scrubbing the steps of the palace. And so the neglected stepchild is our true self. She is Snow White. She represents.
Oh, that's our neglected. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now the whole thing suddenly makes sense,
Yes,
right? It
sir.
clicks into
Yes,
place.
sir. Yes,
That
sir.
she is that as like the driven snow, the untouched, the part of us that can never be corrupted, never change. It's the soul, the spirit, the beingness. But it's always there. It never goes away, but it gets pushed into the background. It's got to get pushed into the foreground. It's got to meet the Prince Charming of enlightenment, who will elevate her into her proper place, into that, that beautiful castle in the clouds that they ride off to in the last shot of the film. Right. But go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking, was Walt Disney spiritual? I didn't realize he was, but he was.
Well, he seems to have been a little bit, but people ask me all the time, because when I wrote this book, and friends heard, okay, what are you doing? Oh, you're writing a book about films and spirituality. So they would say things like, okay, you got to write about The Matrix, and you've got to write about, they would name all this stuff that was obvious, low-hanging fruit.
I understand.
So I deliberately wrote about stuff that can't possibly have a spiritual dimension. So I write about Jaws.
I know, we're going to talk about that.
The Godfather.
I know. Right? I can't wait. We're going to talk about Jaws and the Godfather.
Right. Invasion of the Body Snatcher.
I know. I've got a list.
Right. Because it's way more fun. See, what I did, and I mentioned this in the introduction. When I traveled through Tibet, I was very fortunate. The beloved teacher of mine, a Buddhist teacher from Switzerland named Charles Genoux. And Charles is just a recognized authority on what's called iconography, looking at all the icons, like some of the little, spiritual tchotchkes there on my altar. And all of those represent, like if you see there's Lord Ganesh with his elephant's head. That doesn't mean I expect a guy with an elephant's head to walk in the room. Right. Every aspect of that symbolizes a very particular qualities of the unfoldment of our consciousness into enlightenment. Right. So Charles really taught me, oh, look, because we went through dozens of temples in Tibet. Right. And he said, okay, look, at that Buddha has this many points on his crown, and this one has, and that represents that. So what I did was I took that approach, the approach of iconography, and said, okay, these dwarfs have brown eyes. Dopey has blue eyes. Grumpy has little black spots. Oh, wow. What does that show us?
Gotcha. Yeah. Hey, listen, we got to go to commercial break. We're doing the podcast here today too, so we got to go to commercial break. Hey, his book is called, you guys, it's Dean Sluyter. His book is Cinema Nirvana Enlightenment Lessons from the Movies. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will be right back. Okay. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Dean Sluyter. Dean, I love this book. Talk to me about the cover.
Oh, we had a lot of fun. I was very fortunate. The publishers don't always listen to authors with their ideas about book covers, but in this case they did. So this is my old 15, 16-year-old copy. It's a little faded, but Cinema Nirvana is in like marquee lights you would have in a movie theater. Right. And then what we got here is this golden Buddha with a box of popcorn.
I love it. It's perfect.
And I checked with a couple of my Buddhist teachers. I thought, God, am I going to get in trouble with that?
No, right? Is that like sacrilegious or
is that
something?
too sacrilegious? But they all said, oh no, that's great. We love
It's
that.
good. It's good. That's funny.
I want to mention
What?
where we left off in the story when the dwarfs come back from the mine
Yeah.
and
they find her.
they find her, but at first they're scared. They don't know who's up there or what's up there. They think it may be a monster or something. So who do they send? They send Dopey. They send Dopey. Now, 5 of the dwarfs have brown eyes. One of them, Grumpy, we'll talk about Grumpy in a minute. Dopey is the only one who has baby blue eyes. And
I didn't know that.
And he's the only one with no beard. Right?
I never realized that.
So he's the innocent child.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, that's my job. My job is to see the stuff that you missed.
I know.
Okay. Right. He is the innocence. He is to enter the kingdom of heaven, be like a little child. He's the one they send upstairs to do the reconnaissance and to discover Snow White. So that is how to meditate. Dare to be Dopey. Dare to just go in and go.
Be silly.
Be silly, be loose, don't be solemn, don't be stiff.
Serious.
In fact, this one Tibetan Buddhist Lama that I used to study with, when he'd lead the meditation, he'd tell us to sit with our mouth hanging open. So he say, like you've just said, duh. Like, I don't know, buh, right? And just
the reasoning behind is because then you're what? What's the reasoning behind? Because then you're just yourself.
Then you're open. Because otherwise we're trying to do it with the ego. We're trying to do it with the small self. We're trying to be good at meditating, and that's the ego. And ego is the one that's gonna melt. You know, that's a different film. That's in a different film. That's the Wizard of Oz, where the ego is the Wicked Witch of the West. Mm-hmm. I'm melting.
I'm surprised you didn't put that in here.
I've got that in another book.
It's not there. Well, yeah. Gosh, Dean, you're exactly right. Because everybody does. They try to make this like big thing, out about a meditation, and it's not. It's just relaxing and quieting your mind.
Yeah, not even quieting your mind. Because we can't do that. Because if you try to quiet the mind, it's like you're looking out at the waves on the ocean and going, oh, I need the surface to be quiet, to be silent. Let me take a paddle or something, then whack, 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 hammer down all the waves. But what that does is it stirs it up even more. So it's actually a little simpler than that. Okay. If you stick to it long enough, trying to quiet the mind, you'll get something done. But the fast way that I've been so fortunate to learn from my teachers is more letting. Let me mention that if people go to my website, which is deanwords.com.
Oh yeah, you've got meditations.
Right. I've got guided meditations. It's all free. And it's just whatever you think it is, it's simpler than that. Right. And it is helpful, especially at first with this approach, even if you've been doing other approaches, or especially if you've been doing other approaches, which usually involve some trying, to have someone else drive in the car so you can just kind of relax in the passenger seat. So it's really allowing the mind to quiet. So rather than try to beat down all the waves, we just relax into the water and we start naturally sinking into the deeper levels where it's always quiet. Right now, about a foot below the surface of your awareness, below the thinking level, it's completely silent right now. So it's so what we do is we sink into that, and up there, the thoughts are still going on, the noises are still going on. They trying to quiet, to push all that out is an endless task.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. But just like we all knew as kids, remember, you'd sink down into the swimming pool, you'd look up, there's still people up there. It's kind of wavy, but you're down here in this quiet world.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that. Let's talk about Jaws.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wrote down, I got to tell you what I wrote down. You put the shark as self, I like
Yes.
this. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Buddha's teaching agrees that the self is the monster that stalks and stomps through the world, causing immeasurable suffering.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that's self with the small s. That's equivalent to ego. That's equivalent to the wicked queen in Snow White.
Mhm.
But see, each of these brings out a different aspect. Again, it's the iconography, just as each little statue or painting brings out a different aspect of
Mhm.
ignorance and the unfolding of ignorance into enlightenment. So in this case, people think of Jaws as a film about terror. That's because they're looking at it from the human point of view, which makes perfect sense. But,
Mhm.
I'm weird. So I look at this film from the shark's point of view.
Oh.
In fact, if you think of the very first shot of this film, under the opening credits, it's a point of view shot of going through the water, going through the seaweed and past the minnows and all that.
Mhm.
So, this is a shark's eye view shot. This is another one of these things that, people never notice it. It's a shark's eye view shot, and what it's doing is it's looking for food,
Mhm.
right?
Gotcha.
So this is, from the shark's point of view, this is not a film about terror. It's a film about hunger, right? We're all hungry.
Hungry.
We're hungry because, again, we've identified with this small thing, with this ego, with this lowercase s self.
Mhm.
And so we can never get enough shoes, enough status, enough
They don't make us
anything.
happy and they don't fill us up, huh?
That's right.
I
They
know.
don't. They don't. They don't. It's like when I was a kid, I don't know if there was a cliche about Chinese food when I was a kid growing up in the
Yeah.
50s,
Yeah.
which was, you eat and eat, and half an hour later, you're hungry again.
Hungry. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, and I just want to say something. It takes time. I grew up in a religious household, and I wanted to talk about your growing up because you didn't, and I thought that was interesting. But I will tell you that it took me until I was older and had children of my own before I realized that material things aren't what make you happy, and no matter how
Right.
much you have,
Yeah.
it doesn't fulfill you.
Yeah.
Money and things, you cannot take them with you. Everybody says it, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
So it takes time, I think, a lot of times for people to get to this point.
Sure.
Now, you grew up, I find this interesting, you grew up in a household, and I didn't realize that until I read this book, and I should, because I've had you on the show, but your parents were not religious at all. How did you
Not at
get
all.
so Dean? Seriously.
Well, a couple of things. One thing is, in a way, I think of myself completely as the product or the extension of what my parents were about, because they were highly political. They were political activists. And,
Oh, really?
as a little kid, I was out with them on the sidewalk in protest marches and so
Oh,
forth.
wow.
And so they had this very sincere passion, exactly, to improve the world. I was on on peace marches with them, and they would always host, because my mother was a very fiery speaker, very charismatic. So they would host a lot of the meetings of these groups in their home. And they, these peace activists. But even as a little kid, I realized there was something that was not connecting there. And what I realized was these people, in a very sincere way, were campaigning for peace, but they were not peaceful within themselves.
Interesting.
And later on, when one of my first important teachers, I spent several years studying with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and he said, for the light bulb to illuminate the room, it has to be lit within itself. And as soon as I heard that, I went, right. That's the disconnect I was seeing there. And if you think of the real effective activists, the people who've really brought more peace and equity and justice to the world,
they're the calmer people.
They're right. Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. King, Nelson Mandela. You just think of them and you can feel there's this quietness within them. They don't come from a place of anger or stress.
Right. Wow.
So that was the one thing. The other thing was I had some spontaneous opening experiences as a kid. Some of this stuff that, I didn't practice any meditation. I mean, it's 1961 or something. And, these
Mhm.
books that are all available now were mostly not available. I'm a 12-year-old kid out in the garage.
I know.
This
I
is
love
a
this
true
story.
story.
I know. I love the story. Tell it and then we'll go to commercial break.
Okay. So
Okay.
I'm out in the garage because we're going to go see a drive-in movie. And my mom sent me out to pick up all the toys and comic books that me and my brothers have left there. And my mind is going as usual, right? What's called worrying.
Yes.
And the next thing I pick up is a Mad magazine with idiotic Alfred E. Newman on the cover. And his motto, "What? Me worry?" And my mind just goes, it just, it stops. It realizes all that noise is worry. I've been doing it. Here's the place. It's like I realized my foot had been on the accelerator for 12 years. And as soon when you do that, you realize I can take my foot off the accelerator, and everything became quiet. And that was my first really clear, just taste of nirvana. And so once you've tasted that, you want more.
I know. Thanks for telling that story. I think of
Yeah.
that often when I start to worry. I think about you and I think,
Oh, good.
what worry? I think about the
What, me
Mad
worry?
magazine and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Me worry? All right. Hey, this is Nancy. You're out. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Dean Sluyter. We're talking about his book, Cinema Nirvana. We will be right back. Hi, it's Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Dean Sluyter. Dean, thanks for coming on today. You always teach me so much cool stuff, man.
Well, it's always so much fun being here.
We have fun.
You're fun to play with, Nancy.
Cool things. Ditto, man. Hey, listen, what do you want to talk about? What movie do you want to talk about? The Godfather?
Oh yeah. Oh
All right,
yeah.
let's talk about The Godfather.
Okay.
And I'll let you talk.
making-
Look at all my pink notes.
You're making me an offer I can't refuse.
Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay, go for it. Go for it. Then I'll look for my notes and I'll chime in
Okay.
somewhere.
First of all, let me just say that as a pure film buff, and I'm married now to a filmmaker. My wife is
I didn't know she was a filmmaker.
She's a film editor. She works on documentary films.
I didn't know that.
And so, we sit down and we watch, and I've learned so much from her,
I bet.
because her eye is so good and so precise.
Wow.
And this is what we do. We watch films together and then talk about them,
Nice.
which is great.
That's awesome.
So
You say Godfather, 1972. I believe in America.
yes. Yeah, that's the first line.
I
The
believe
first,
in
the,
And
the
that's
first
what
line.
hit me the hardest. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
things have changed. And so,
Yeah. Well, so what I was starting to say was my wife and I both, we've got our list of like the 10 perfect films ever made.
Okay.
And The Godfather is one of them.
Okay.
It's just, I mean, even forget about the Enlightenment aspect of it. It is a perfect work of art. You don't want to change one word. You don't want to cut into any scene one beat sooner or one beat later. It's just right on it in every
That's why
moment.
people quote it, huh?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's got that great script. Some of the business was improvised by the actors. Like there's that moment where Sonny, James Caan, right, he's at home with his wife and the crying babies, and he gets the call from his sister Connie that her new husband has beat her up, and wait, is that the call? He's gotten some call, something like that. Mm-hmm. And he picks up a pencil and he's got to remember a phone number and he writes it on the kitchen cabinet. And just something about that moment. Yeah, that's what that guy would do in that moment. The great line where Clemenza and his driver take Paulie out into the Meadowlands to have him whacked, and Clemenza goes out to take a whiz while the guy is shot, and he walks back and he says to the driver, "Leave the gun, take the cannoli." Right. That was Richard. I forget his last name. The actor. That was his improv. It's just bam, bam. Everything is just right. So my Enlightenment take on The Godfather,
okay,
is switch around the words of the title. the Godfather becomes God the Father.
Mhm.
And Francis Ford Coppola, coming in his case specifically from an Italian Catholic family, and growing up, he's in my generation that came of age in the 60s, where everything was getting questioned, everything was getting revolutionized,
Mhm.
including for a lot of people, politics, for a lot of people, religion. So he's looking back at that traditional religion where you have this patriarchal God, right?
Mhm.
Right. Don Corleone,
Was that, yeah.
the Marlon Brando, he is the patriarchal God, right?
Mhm.
He's an
Mhm.
Old Testament God.
Right.
He is the mighty right hand that will smite your enemies, right? But in that right, I believe in America, that was the Undertaker we see in the very first scene, who's asking the Godfather to wreak vengeance on the two guys that raped and mutilated, cut up the face of the Undertaker's daughter,
Oh, yeah. Right.
right? And Don Corleone, then after he escorts the Undertaker out of his office, he says to his two guys, and he wants the guys killed, but he says, you ask me for justice, but your daughter is still alive. That's not justice. But we'll take
We'll
you.
take care
We'll
of
make
it.
these guys very, very sorry.
Yeah.
And after he walks them out, he assigns the job to a couple of his guys. He says, I want reliable people. We're not murderers, no matter what that Undertaker thinks. Right. So there's
Yeah.
that idea that of the old patriarchal Old Testament God as being, he can be violent and swift and all that, but there's a justice to what he does.
Well, and it's that old an eye for an eye.
Yeah, an eye for an eye. Exactly right. It's
And
exactly
that's
right.
how they looked at things. And you
Right.
put some, I just want to mention, and I was looking while you were telling this, you put a lot of Bible verses
Mm-hmm.
throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And, you say, you put something from Revelations and you say, and there was a war in heaven, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven. I mean, a lot of the stuff you relate right back to the Bible. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because all that stuff is there in all the traditions. It's a
Mhm.
little in a lot of the Western traditions, mainly because the simplicity, the meditative approaches, I mean, if you go back to the beginning, Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is within you.
Right.
And he describes exactly how to access it, be like a little child. But then all that tends to get lost in the outer ceremony and the doctrines and the dogmas, and when people stop having the actual experience and miss the simplicity of just settling back into that experience, then it gets presented, especially when the proponents of the religion, whatever they are,
Mhm.
whether they're priests, ministers, rabbis, imams, whatever, when
Mhm.
they've lost the actual experience, then they start trying to sell it on the basis of belief.
Right.
Well, you just have to believe in heaven. Oh, you're not experiencing it now? Well, you're going to experience it on a cloud someday after you die.
Yeah, and
That's not
that's
what
not cool.
Jesus made
Yeah.
fun of the notion. You go back and look, he said, oh, if people say, oh, the heaven's up in the sky, the birds will be there before you are.
Mm.
Jesus was doing stand-up. That's spiritual stand-up comedy,
Well, I
right?
want to
Hey,
take you back to what
the
you.
birds will get there
Yeah,
before you do.
no, I know, but I want to take you back to what you said about what Jesus said about be childlike, because I agree with that. And I just
Yeah.
want to mention that I think what he was, this is my
Mm-hmm.
interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was talking about our inner child. We talk about the inner child. Well, no matter what, we're all still little kids on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
guess when I talk about thinking happy thoughts and that, I guess I want to feel childlike still, skip around every once in a while and
Yeah.
sing and be happy and do stuff spontaneous.
Dare to
And
be
that's
dopey.
Yeah, there you go. Bingo. We're on
Yeah.
the same page. And so when Jesus said be childlike, I feel like that's what he meant. Still be that child you are. I mean, of course, we're wiser because we're older, but don't forget about the fun stuff. Sometimes we get too serious and
Yeah.
and I think that's what he meant. What do you think? I mean, am I
Yeah.
reaching there on that one?
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that I think there's a lot of value in doing that. I'm very, very lucky to be in a marriage where we just laugh a lot.
You have fun. Yeah, you have fun. You have
Yeah,
fun.
we have fun.
Yeah.
When I hear people talk about, oh, we're working on the relationship,
You're
I
like,
go,
oh my
oh
God.
my God, no, I want to come home from work. I don't want to come home to
To
work.
work.
Right?
Well, and let me just say this to all those single people out there, because I'm recently single. I'm really
Yeah.
happy. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
need another person to make me happy. I
Yeah.
just want to say that because a lot of people think, and you have a good relationship, and that's cool. And I'm sure I'll
Yeah.
have another one that's great
Yeah.
one of these days.
Hmm.
But in the meantime, I'm really happy.
Yeah.
And you can be happy in yourself. You don't, I think that's such a misconception that people
Yep.
think they need another person to make them happy, and you don't. I hate that say that, but I kind of like some
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
And then look at the pressure you're putting on the other person.
I
My
know.
happiness depends on
On
you.
you, right?
And
No.
meanwhile, they're busy trying to make their happiness depend on you.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it is. It
Uh-uh.
is. You just have to throw all that away. So yeah, having that attitude, that light, playful attitude
Yeah.
is great. And it's particularly crucial when you're sitting to, whether we call it praying or meditating, whatever,
Mhm.
just being is my favorite phrase for it. Because even meditating, it's such a big word. It sounds like it must be a big, complicated task. And it's the opposite of that. It's just that, oh, what the hell? Just okay, I give up. There's your mantra right there. I give up
I
and
give
just
up.
let it happen.
But when you
I
do,
surrender.
yeah, but then you do connect with the divine.
That is when you connect with the divine, because you get the small self out of the way. The shark, the evil queen, whatever you want to call it, you stop feeding that. You get that thing out of the way, because it will try to take over everything, including meditation. It will turn meditation into a job, into an accomplishment.
And then you won't
Okay.
do it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm meditating for 25 minutes a day and my posture is perfect. I'm working on, I've heard people tell me that, and I'm working on 30 minutes. I go, oh yeah,
Oh
you're
my
working.
gosh.
You're working. Right.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Dean, you're like, dude, just chill. I love it. Thank you for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. Any words of wisdom other than that? My gosh, I don't know how much more wisdom you could give us, but go within, connect with God. I mean, that's the way to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Truly.
It's so simple. It's just, yeah. Whatever you think it is, it's simpler than that. That's A. And B, anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. You don't need a bunch of sophisticated knowledge. You don't have to memorize a bunch of Sanskrit words. You don't have to have perfect posture. It doesn't matter how old you are or what your lifestyle is, or whatever. Anyone can do it. Anyone can access it, because it is your inner nature. It is what at heart you are. And you just need someone to show you, to pull the rug of effort out from under you. And really, I invite people to come to my website, deanwords.com. The stuff is all free. You access the guided meditations. I'm also doing live sessions these days on Zoom. You can sign up for those. It's all free. Yeah, come
Well,
on
thank you.
by.
Thank you. Hey, you guys, all you guys have been asking me, what can I do? What can I do? And everybody wants to be more connected. And so I'm really glad we did the show today, because you have just told people exactly how they can find peace within themselves. And the world can go crazy out there, but we can still be centered, and we can be balanced, and we can be connected to God. So I think that's awesome.
And the world needs people who are connected to let some of the steam off of that craziness.
I agree. Wow. Thank you. Hey, his book is called Cinema Nirvana. I'm sure you can pick it up on Amazon. If you need a psychic reading, don't forget to go to my website, nancyyearout.com, and click on the book, and you can go to my calendar and book a reading with me. I will see you guys next week. Dean, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. See you next week on the high road. Everybody take care and have a fabulous week. Bye-bye.
Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road.
Hey, you guys, join me next week on The High Road for more stories filled with wisdom, love, and hope for our future. Have a fabulous week and know that by staying on the high road, you will make it to your destination. Visit my website, nancyyearout.com, where you can book a private session to learn how to tap into your own abilities. And check out my YouTube channel. It's Nancy Yearout's High Road to Humanity.
You can achieve your goal.